His skin is white just like a ghost, thick Irish roots and his blonde hair. And he sounds like a Chicago superfan, a music nerd with a collection of CDs from here to there. Yes, Andy Dare is in Chicago, interviewing and barbecuing. It's the Andy Dare Show. It's the Andy Dare Show.
Welcome to the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 143. Today I am joined by a cool guy, Martin Atkins. He is an awesome drummer who's been 30 plus years in the game, and now he is using the knowledge that he's learned from those past decades, and he's applying it to the future generation and teaching classes about music business, how to make extra money, touring, how to make a band and actually an actual money maker. And it's tough now. I mean, obviously the sales of records are not anything that a band can really rely on anymore, but as you hear in the interview, Martin thinks that's no excuse. There are ways to do it, and there are dozens and dozens of bands that are following these lessons, and they are having success, even in 2015 when he thought it was not possible. So yeah, Martin's a great guy, funny guy, lots of cool stories, working with bands like Public Image Limited, Pigface, Ministry, and also Murder Inc., his group with Chris Connolly and the guys from Killing Joke. So there's lots of cool stories. Stay tuned to that. As you can see right out there in Chicagoland, the spring is finally here after a brutal winter, obviously. Great weather out there, and kind of it's barbecue season, it's graduation season, it's wedding season. And as you know, my awesome sponsor for the past couple years, Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue, is there to pretty much take over all the hassle of, supplying the food for your party. Check them out at UncleBubs.com. And I think they've got something like 70-plus weddings booked for this season alone, and they're booking fast for 2016. I know it's crazy, but it's true. And besides weddings, they do pig roast, luau's, backyard barbecues, grill packages, corporate events, you name it. You don't even have to have the crew come out. You could just go pick it up at the restaurant at 132 South Cass Avenue in Westmont, Illinois. I would give them a call, 630-493-9000, and ask to speak to one of the catering managers, and they'll have all the details. Tell them that the Andy Dare Show sent you for special offers and savings. And yeah, parties are booking fast. If you're looking to have a party on Saturday this summer, I would call ASAP. They're booking so quickly. Also, the Uncle Bub's barbecue team is traveling across the United States. Right now, they're in Texas. They're going to be hitting up dozens of spots all over this beautiful nation of ours, bringing you the real deal barbecue, delicious brisket, pulled pork, you name it, smoked meats, awesome side dishes, delicious desserts. It's real good, awesome barbecue. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Check them out, UncleBubs.com. All right, now that I got that out of the way, I want to keep my little thing short this week because we got a great interview with Martin Atkins. But I thought I'd read you my latest Empty Lighthouse article, and we'll be right back with that after this message.
Yo, what goes on, people? Jay Porks here. Just reminding you to keep it locked to the Deer Network throughout 2015, where you can get the Tyler Kale Show, the smooth, sultry tones of the Jay Porks Experience, or the Andy Dare Show. Keep it locked to AndyDare.com. 2015, big things coming.
And we are back. As you know, my first concert, early 1996, was Blur at the Metro downtown at Chicago. And say what you will about Oasis, they had a couple awesome classic albums, but really Blur was there for the whole race. They weren't just there to have a couple classic albums. They had many classic albums, and they're still doing it. It was so nice to hear a couple months ago that Blur has reunited, and with a brand new studio album to boot. It is called The Magic Whip, and here is my review from April 28th. Via the great people at EmptyLighthouse.com. If you like, pop culture, I do the music reviews, album reviews, concert reviews. Check them out, EmptyLighthouse.com. And yeah, here's a snippet from my album review, Blur, The Magic Whip, posted by Andy Dare. The reunion of the seminal Britpop band Blur was something that didn't seem possible at multiple points in the last decade. After singer Damon Albarn's side project Gorillaz took off in 2001, his day job seemed less and less of a going concern. After all, Gorillaz and their hip-hop dub reggae space rock experiments perfectly suited a paranoid post-9/11 mentality, making the classicist English pop of Blur seem quaint in comparison. The original split of guitarist Graham Coxon in the band was something that had been brewing for years. After Blur's mid-90s 1-2 punch of Parklife and The Great Escape, there was a sense that the boys couldn't possibly take their cheeky British character studies anywhere further. Coxon began pushing Blur into an interesting territory. American 90s indie rock like Pavement, Sonic Youth, and Guided by Voices. Coxon's singular guitar sound began to be more concerned with summoning noise instead of the Dave Davies-esque leads of his recent past. Coxon continued to follow his muse with a string of lo-fi solo albums around the time when Albarn began constructing his animated side project Gorillaz. So when Coxon was asked to leave the sessions for 2003's would-be Blur swan song, Think Tank, it came as no big surprise. That album felt like a Gorillaz album with the hip-hop quotient deleted, and while it contained many gorgeous Albarn compositions, it was a far cry from the band we grew to love. All right, that's just a snippet. Check out the whole review over at emptylighthouse.com, and I got a link right over at andydare.com for you to check. There's dozens of articles I've written. There's Tape Tuesday I've been doing, where it's every Tuesday I take a tape from my collection from 1995, and I just do a little description about it, memories with the album, etc. So check it out. All that stuff can be found at andydare.com. And I want to thank you guys for checking out the website, for checking out the podcast, for leaving a review on iTunes, and for subscribing to the Honeycomb Fanzine. If you want to be part of that mailing list, all you got to do is call 630-341-3022 and leave a voicemail with your mailing address and name. I want to thank everybody who's on the list so far. And yeah, that about does it for today's little preamble. Hope you enjoy my episode. It's episode 143, No Excuses, with special guest Martin Atkins. Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. Today it is episode 143, and it's an honor to be joined by Martin Atkins. How you doing, man?
I'm really good, Andy. It's weird you said 143. I think that's the catalog number for the first Damage Manual EP.
That is awesome. Yeah, and obviously we had Chris Conley on early this year. I've known Chris for a long time, so it's all in the family here. And yeah, you got some awesome stories. I read up on your story. But yeah, people can find you May 9th over at SAE Chicago doing a music business crash course, correct?
Yeah, I'm doing. I'm linking three things together that work pretty well. I did how to make an extra $100K next year at Southwest, and I tell people print their own shirts, do this, do that, work on homemade packaging for your music in addition to digital downloads, and it's great when I actually link the 100K lecture to a packaging, screen printing, and merchandising workshop. So it's like, here's the idea, here's the thought, and now here's the practical component.
And how to execute it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's kind of exhausting, it's a long day, but it's good to link all of those things together.
Really cool. Yeah, 11 to 4 p.m. and completely free, so you have no excuses. If you're in a band, and a lot of bands are struggling, especially now that it's hard to make a dime in the music business without touring, go check out Martin. And yeah, I mean, you've been in the business 30 years. You've seen a huge sea change, obviously, where when you started, you could actually make a living off of selling the records and selling the singles and going to each store and selling inventory and stuff like that. Now that's pretty much removed off the table. I mean, do you agree with that? I mean,
well, anyway, but I mean, I think there's a hysteria surrounding there's an attitude that, I have a record label that put out 400 albums. I'm not immune from any of the changes. But one of the pieces of scenery I made for a band, an industrial band called Test Department, that I brought over from the UK, was a quote from Heraclitus, and it says, "The only constant things change."
True.
I'm a little bit frustrated with the hysteria from artists surrounding things like Spotify, where really I came up in a period where the best thing ever for artists' careers and the viral spread of music was a blank cassette tape.
Sure.
And, the blank cassette tape didn't destroy careers or the music industry. In fact, it made lots of people aware of new artists. And I think it's time for artists and independent artists to say, look, Spotify is Spotify. We could all march on wherever they're from, right?
Sure.
We could all march to that town, have a demonstration, and get them to pay 4 times as much, 400% of what they're paying now, and it still wouldn't make any difference. It barely makes a difference to Taylor Swift, So, actually, if you look at a more economical use of your time, if bands could do like one extra show every 6 months, as long as they have a tip jar, a selection of merchandise, more than one T-shirt in more than one size, so imaginative things going on, then bands could make more money. If money's a problem, there's lots of other ways to make money other than downloads and for music.
Sure, I totally agree, and you can't blame the whole atmosphere around you. You have to look in the mirror and say, let's find some small little twitches that we could do, little things that we could fix on our own side. And there's little ways that you can make more money, just small little changes that are not necessarily huge changes. But as you said, have a nice merch table. I mean, I've gone to shows and there's one T-shirt and it's sold out. So you just completely missed a huge opportunity.
Right.
And,
well, it's a tiny thing, like rolling your shirts before a show. So we do, and it takes a lot of time, and it's always frustrating. And I always want to say, screw it, let's just go.
Sure.
But you roll the shirts and put a piece of tape over the rolled end with the size, and so you can put 60 shirts in one box and see what sizes you have. More importantly, give somebody a shirt very quickly. If you don't do that, what normally happens is someone says, "Oh, I want that shirt in medium." You go, it took 4 minutes for you to say, "Well, I don't have medium," and you're going through this whole box, and maybe one shirt falls on the floor in a pool of beer, whatever, and it's like, "I'm sorry, I don't have medium," and then it's like, "Okay, well, never mind. Sorry, please, you like the show." And then somebody else comes up and says, "Extra large," and you go to pick up an extra large, and oh my God, it's medium, but that person's gone. And so you've just spent 5 minutes achieving nothing. You just lost a $20 sale, right? And the longer every sale takes, sure, we've all got, well, we don't have that much time anymore, but there's 2 sales on the perimeter of where you are, and they watch how long every sale is taking, and they're thinking, you know what, it's a Tuesday night, I kind of want that shirt, I like this band, I want to support them, I'm going to give them $20, but by the time I get to give them my 20, I'm going to have to give my babysitter another 25, and screw this then. They leave just for shirts. You can sell an extra shirt of the right size to somebody and sell one more shirt to somebody who would normally leave because they see how long it's going to take. So people are looking for this one-shot solution. And it isn't. It's 500 different things, and it's mind-boggling, and I forget half of them half of the time. But that's what it is, and it's completely within everyone's control. I just presented in Denver over the weekend at the Denver Music Summit, and 2 of my slides, I kind of stopped halfway through. One of my slides was from Olive Garden, who have this new deal where you go to Olive Garden, it's announced it every couple of months. You go to Olive Garden on, let's say this Friday, they'll babysit your kids for you.
Really?
Drop your kids off at this place. And I'm like, I don't want to go to Olive Garden, and even if they're watching my kids, I don't still particularly want to go. But I'm going, holy crap, there's a restaurant that's thinking outside of the box. That's amazing.
That is true.
And then, and then I hear about, my next slide is from a windshield repair company called Safe Light Replace. And they tell the story of this woman who needed a replacing kind of urgently, but she'd arranged to take her children to the zoo. So they went to the zoo and replaced her windshield in the parking lot of the zoo. and
it's an extra mile, yeah, really.
Right, and then I just said, well, how sad is it that I'm holding up an alleged pasta restaurant and an automobile windshield replacement company as inspirational to artists? It used to be that artists were so far ahead of the curve. We were doing all of this really cool stuff, and everyone was looking to us going, oh my goodness, they're so out of the, so imaginative and so creative. But we spend so much time crying over whatever changes have been happening over the last decade. And I keep seeing this post on Facebook. You wouldn't do this to a plumber. You wouldn't ask your plumber to work for the exposure. And it's like, yeah, but I just got a check from an album, a song I wrote in 1979, and I don't think plumbers get paid for a toilet repair 25 years after they did it.
That's awesome. Totally agree. Yeah.
There are these amazing examples, and I'll say sometimes facetiously on Twitter, go bake your audience a pie, take your audience home, do your audience's laundry, and I look at people's faces when I make these suggestions, and they recoil in horror because, and then we get to what I think part of the problem is, because I'm talking to amazing guitarists or amazing lyricists and performers and vocalists or amazing drummers. And it's like, I don't care. Nobody cares. You
also have to be an amazing, amazing business mind, if I can spit it out there. Yeah.
Of course. But if you do somebody's laundry, somebody who's never heard of your band is like, I'll come to your listening party. Wink, wink, and I'll really give your album a listen while you're doing my laundry. Well, after you've done the laundry, it only takes an hour, and you could have a bunch of people helping you. You could even employ a laundromat that needs a bit of a publicity push. When that person gets home, maybe they're thinking, I screwed that band. I'm not going to listen to this album. I got my laundry done for free. Halfway through the clean socks and the clean underwear, maybe they're like, you know what? I'll listen to that album.
They've made an impression, right? Yeah.
Right, and you planted what I call a guilt bomb, and so if you're a decent band with a decent live show and decent songs, and you're not all assholes, then that's how you win a fan. And how long do you have a fan for? Well, as long as your music is good, you're not assholes, and you have a good live show, that could be 30 years. So the return on investment of one load of laundry and some nice-smelling dryer sheets,
could be a fan for 15 years. Yeah.
Right. So it's the new music business is there. The revenue has moved around a little bit. But I think it's a fantastic time to be an artist and bypass. We could, I love this word. We use it in class all the time. Disintermediation, the removal of all of the people in between you and the end user, or you and the fan. And that's just fantastic. It's what we hoped punk rock would be, and now it's here.
It's come to fruition. There's no middleman anymore. You're dealing exactly with your customer now. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I hear on Facebook, the singer of Cracker, his name is like David Lowery. do you follow him? He's a complete artist rights advocate. But he keeps playing the sad violin of Spotify's killing everything, streaming's killing everything. I think the cat's out the bag, unfortunately, at this point. And as you said, you have to take the small things that'll make a big difference exactly straight to your fans and cater to your fan base, which I'm seeing a lot now, especially with all these crowdfunding things. How do you feel about crowdfunding an album? Local H did it just recently. I got to talk to Scott Lucas, and small things like going to play a small little set at your, somebody who funds your album, playing it right at their house, having a barbecue at their house, stuff like that.
I think it's fantastic, and people, the people who don't get it, so I'm not going to beg.
Sure.
I won't beg for money.
And you're not going to make money.
It's actually a marketing platform. What happens is you put yourself out there, make yourself vulnerable, and ask for help. And then people decide, are they going to support literally and figuratively? And once somebody contributes $1 or to a campaign, if it's early in the campaign, you still have another couple of weeks to communicate with them and see if they'll, go to another level.
Sure.
And I've noticed I crowdfunded my third book, which is just now, and I can see people in an audience when I'm speaking, and I just know if they've contributed to my Kickstarter, because they're not laughing at my funny ideas. They're not thinking, "Oh, this is funny."
Sure.
They're thinking, "Isn't our guy funny? Haven't we enabled this to happen? And isn't it fun?" It changes the relationship. Now, if you want a 1980s, show up at the gig, straight backstage, straight from the stage in the limo back to the hotel, those days are gone.
Pretty much, yeah.
Those days are gone. You are very lucky if you can stay at the venue for signing things afterwards, and if you can, you should. So I think crowdfunding is awesome, but I do advise people. It's like an unexpected show at Madison Square Garden. It's only good if you can already fill Madison Square Garden.
That's true.
If you can't fill Madison Square Garden, you're going to alienate the small group of fans that you do have by having them stand in a room that's way too large with no vibe.
That's true. You have to be at a certain point to be able to fully use the crowdfunding. Don't crowdfund when you just start the band, right?
Right, and also, set reasonable goals. There's nothing wrong. You don't have to crowdfund a double album. You could crowdfund an EP, or you could crowdfund strings for the bass guitar for the recording of one song. I mean,
something
you
small.
Succeed at one level, and then you succeed. You repeat. You Vidal Sassoon it. You rinse, repeat.
Beautiful. I like that. That's awesome. And yeah, I totally agree. I love where we're at especially with social media. I started this show about 5 years ago, and who would have thought I'd just be able to send a message over my laptop and then be talking to the guy, a couple days later. I've interviewed my heroes, stuff that would never have happened in the 80s or 90s. I would have to send a letter to a manager who would send it to a record label. Good luck, in 6 months, maybe I'll get a letter coming back saying, no, we can't do it. So
right. It's intermediation. It's awesome.
It's beautiful. And yeah, if you got time, I got a couple other questions.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, dual drumming. You kind of pioneered that with Ministry and obviously Pigface, stuff like that. Obviously, the Grateful Dead don't seem to be a big influence. That's the only other band I was seeing a lot of dual drumming with. Was it tribal influences? What was the reason for dual drumming?
Well, I think one of the first bands I saw when I was maybe 11, maybe 12, was the Gary Glitter Band.
Oh, okay.
And unfortunately, Gary's in jail now because he's
pedo.
Yeah. But they had two drum kits, and so that whole idea intrigued me. Ministry was a little bit different. Me and Bill Rieflin, we were both playing to loops, but then Pigface, Murder Inc., a lot of things that I've done, except I guess the Damage Manual, a lot of things have been dual drummers. In fact, at many stages of Pigface, we had 3 drummers. Danny Carey from Tool came out with us in '94, so there's 3 of us in a line, all playing black pearl drum kits. It was like synchronized trampolining. It was awesome.
Awesome, cool.
So I like that, and I guess a different reason with Murder Inc. was, I'd spent a few years with Killing Joke and absorbed Paul Ferguson's tribal drumming technique, I guess, through playing the old songs with Killing Joke, and it felt interesting from more of a social aspect to work and bond with a drummer that you could say, in many ways, we should have felt like we were rivals.
Sure, you're playing with them and not against them. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we acted out the push and the pull of that. Eventually, coming to this very solid point.
Locked in.
Through drums. Yeah, it was very interesting and really rewarding, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, the Murder Inc. album I'm a big fan of that. Big fan of Steve Albini, totally nice guy. I've interviewed him at Electrical, and I was nervous going in there. I thought he had this, kind of a thing like he was the Darth Vader of indie rock or something like that. And we went in the studio. He couldn't be nicer. He's cracking jokes. Totally funny guy. And so it's not always what your rep is, kind of, in this business. How was the sessions for Murder Inc.? I obviously Chris Conley, the guys from Killing Joke, and you, and Steve Albini, the engineer, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult, actually. So I put the band together and did all of the recording, and I think it felt like, well, okay, half of Ministry, Killing Joke. This is a slam dunk for a major label deal.
Sure.
And nobody bit.
Nobody, huh?
Nobody bit. And so, I funded the recording. We got a deal in the UK, and we went to the UK and did 6 shows. And on the way back, did 1 show in New York and got a great review in the New York Times. And then that turned into a deal. But I remember very specifically, it was an expensive album to put together. And
did you do that at Pachyderm? Where'd you guys record that?
Yeah, we recorded at Pachyderm up in Cannon Falls, Minnesota.
Nice.
At Steve Albini's suggestion. It's a great suggestion. But I'd love to say it was just this creative experience of, playing drums. We did demos at my place here in Chicago. Used to be on Wabash, and that was great. But I remember half of my time up at Pachyderm was dealing with, financial issues, and one of the many times that I've been at that point of like, well, I'll say to people, anybody can be creative.
Sure.
But, be creative when the landlord's banging on the door, or, a $25,000 invoice is banging on the door. And that's a completely different creative for sure. But man, that was a great band.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of came maybe 5 years too late, in like 92 or 3 when it came out. I'm sure all the labels were looking for the next Kurt, the next Billy Corgan, something like that, some Pearl Jam type stuff, and all the Ministry stuff had kind of fallen from the wayside. Al had his own demons to deal with, inner band, turmoil going on and stuff like that, especially with Killing Joke at the same time. So maybe it was just as we talk about, this business is always changing, and it was changing in 1992 like it's changing in 2015, right?
Right. But I think that there's a couple of, we come to F You Over. That track Murder Inc., the title track, just felt like so new and nothing to do with industrial rock.
It's true. It was almost Chris was almost rapping on some of these tracks, right?
Yeah, I'm like, holy shit! You know, I thought that we'd just gone to another place, you know. And you know, some people, I have to talk to Jazz about this. There's a picture on my Facebook today, throwback Thursday, except it's Monday. It's like 2 years ago today, I posted a picture when I was backstage with Jazz and Geordie at the Killing Joke show at the Empty Bottle. Nice. And I've always gotten along well with Geordie. I was best man at his wedding. But, you know, drummers don't leave singers' bands. And I left Killing Joke, and Jazz and I just didn't get along at all until very recently. And I think that, he thinks I started Murder Inc. to try and steal Killing Joke's thunder, but actually he started Murder Inc. because when we were touring in Europe, and Chris Conley might have told you this story, when we were touring in Europe with Killing Joke, the first Gulf War was happening, and Jazz was on the phone with a travel agent reserving flights to get to New Zealand and be safe.
Okay.
And I'm like, hold on a minute, dude. This tour doesn't break even until the last 2 shows in London, which are more money for those 2 shows than the 20 shows leading up to those 2 shows, probably.
Okay.
You know, so if you leave at any point, you know, we're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, I called Chris Conley up. I said, hey, Chris, are you a fan of Killing Joke? And he was a big fan. And I said, well, would you learn this set list? And so if Jazz leaves us in the middle of nowhere, you could fly out the next day and we could, you know, under protest, kind of finish the tour, get paid and pay all the crew and pay for the bus and, you know, and so that was kind of the beginning of Murder Inc.
Nice. And he obviously said yes and was on the next flight? Or?
Well, no, he didn't need to get on a flight, but because, you know, one thing led to another and Jazz stayed for the whole tour, but that seed had been sown.
Gotcha.
And the idea that Jazz would just leave us in the middle of nowhere was difficult to shake. And so we went ahead and recorded an album.
That's awesome. And even though it wasn't a big seller, I love it. And I think it's definitely an amalgamation of all your guys' styles and something completely new in your catalog at the same time. I mean, I just got one more if you got the time.
Sure.
Your first impressions with Trent Reznor, and did you have any inkling that he would go on to be such a huge force in the music industry still even today? I mean, or was he more of a nihilist back then and you were like, who is this kid?
No, actually, Steve Albini, I remember Steve Albini leaned back in the producer's chair at Chicago Tracks where we were recording the first Pigface album, Gob, and he said, look, there's people here in Chicago who can play keyboards. You don't have to fly this kid out from Cleveland, which is where Trent was living at the time. And I'm like, no, I want to fly this kid out from Cleveland. You know, nice. He's a friend of mine. It'll be cool, you know. Sure. And I think when Trent sang on the Pigface album, I think he sold like 5,000 Nine Inch Nails albums. And he was just a friend of mine. So I don't think, you know, there have been some people who've been in the studio with Pigface where it's like, oh, holy shit, what's going on here? Lane Staley from Alice in Chains spent 2 years in the studio with us and didn't do a thing.
No.
He was just in the studio with us, you know. So there have been moments that have felt like you might think it felt like to have Trent in the studio, but it was just kind of a cool social thing once again.
Nice. And did he have the drive in him at that point, or was he just was he just hard to deal with, or did he have this business acumen that he seems to have now pretty strongly and for the last 10, 15 years? No, I don't think so. He was just wanting to make music and was delighted. He came to town, you know, a few months after the recording session again, and I think hung out with Al. We did Paul Barker's Led Into Gold, Faster Than Light video. I mean,
I think Ministry and Killing Joke were maybe Pill, I'm not sure, were bands that he grew up listening to and was, I think very happy to be moving in those circles.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of cool, yeah.
And you were in the Head Like a Hole video, right?
Yeah. I have a Grammy for my work on Wish.
Nice.
And I'm in the Head Like a Whole video. There's another track on that album on as well. I just don't know what it is.
Was it Gave Up or something like? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
are you guys still in contact or not so much?
No, actually, not for any weird reasons. I spoke to him in LA maybe 8 years ago. A really nice conversation.
Nice.
And we haven't spoken since.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've collaborated with dozens and dozens of people. You can't, be super close with every single one in your past. But yeah,
right,
it's really cool that, this kid was interested in your bands and all the Killing Joke and all that stuff, and then somehow got to be a part of it, and then went on to do big things. And
well, the first time I met him was in Cleveland at the club called The Fantasy, PHANTSCASY, Fantasy.
Nice.
And he played in a local band. I'd forgotten the name, Dangerous Birds or something. I remember the name really. And had a punk band called Brian Brain, and we had a French single that did quite well with horns on it. But sent out cassette tapes to people and said, look, if you can find a horn section, here's a song, come play horns. And so the first time I met Trent, he was the trumpet player.
Wow.
Playing with
for Brian.
And so, and I remember going to barbecues in Cleveland. The people who owned the nightclub at their house, the DeFrazier family, and they'd be like in the laundry room with a synthesizer, recording some demos, and gave me some early cassette demos of stuff he was working on.
That's really cool. And, I'm definitely going to come to the thing May 9th because, complete crash course in the music business. I've gotten out of bands myself. I decided that I'm better at discussing the world of music and interviewing musicians and stuff. About 5 years ago, I decided that. But I'm still very interested in it. And I feel like if I eventually get this show to, take off or get onto a larger network, then I would already have a built-in audience to have a demo, have a band, stuff like that. That's my next plan, kind of going.
Well, there you go. Sounds like a plan.
But yeah, totally awesome chat, and I love the little small things like having your t-shirts rolled up so it's just easier to get to. Little things like that will save you time and make you money. Why not do it? Why not check out the Music Business Crash Course, 11 to 4 p.m., May 9th at SAE Chicago, and how about any plugs? Is your website martinatkins.com, or is it just Twitter, Facebook?
I have merchandise up at Martin Atkins Big Quartet. TS Touring is the site where my book is, and we're just in the process of putting everything back together and making it into one big site again.
Nice, awesome. And on Twitter, it's Martin with, 3 or 4 E's?
4 E's, just like the old days.
Nice. Love it. And, just want to thank you for taking the time out. I learned a lot. You got a lot of awesome stories. You pretty much just skimmed the top, so you're always invited back in a few months or maybe this fall or something. Any last words, Martin?
No, I'll see you on the 9th, and thanks for taking the time to chat. I enjoyed it.
All right, sounds good. Then on behalf of Martin Atkins, this is Andy signing off for The Andy Darer Show. This episode of The Andy Dare Show is brought to you in part by Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue in Westmont, Illinois. Family owned and operated since 1997, Uncle Bub's is the real deal barbecue. A family-friendly restaurant open 7 days a week. Also, it's a full-service catering company doing weddings, pig roasts, luau's, grill packages, you name it. They have a friendly, helpful staff that will make sure that your party goes off without a hitch. Call them at 630-493-9000. Visit them at 132 South Cass Avenue in Westmont, Illinois, and UncleBubs.com. Hey man, I know you like grilling. I know you like getting those dark grill marks on your burgers, fish, chicken. And I know you don't want to just dry your meat out like you're cooking with a hairdryer. Why not get the Man Grate and click through the AndyDareShow.com's banner so we can keep the lights on here at Honeycomb Hideout Studios in gorgeous Westmont, Illinois. The Man Great. This episode of The Andy Dare Show is brought to you in part by Record Utopia, a music lover's dream with thousands of vinyl records, musical instruments, and sound gear. They buy, sell, and trade. Give them a call at 630-963-1957. Visit them in Westmont, Illinois at 309 West Ogden Avenue, on the web at recordutopia.com. It's always a good, relaxed atmosphere. Check them out, Record Utopia. Be sure to follow Andy on Twitter, that's at Andy Dare, and like our show on Facebook, that's facebook.com/The Andy Dare Show. Videos at youtube.com/Andrew Martin Dare, and we're on iTunes, just search The Andy Dare Show, please leave a review. Thanks so much to our wonderful sponsors, Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue, Record Utopia, The Man Great, and Amazon.com. Theme song courtesy of Rich Banks Music. Thank you so much for checking out The Andy Dare Show. TheAndyDareShow.com.